All right, we're officially live, but we've not officially started yet. So wait for some guys to join.
You were.
That might be you. Yeah.
Well, no, 3 online because it shows you.
Oh, hey, look, there I am. You can mute that actually. So hit the yeah, that way you can.
There's a delay.
Yeah. What is this? What's going on here? There's a spot in my head. Where'd that come from?
I don't know. You're about to see it though.
All right.
Yeah, now you're special.
All right, fellas. So apparently there's a bit of a delay here, which is good, and it means that you guys are going to be joining, and you'll hear this intro. So appreciate you guys being here. Actually, we're going to hang out for a little bit. Let's let a few more guys join before we jump into it. And producer Ethan is here in the studio with me, just kind of getting things going. So actually, I can see your reflection in the ball behind me.
Oh yeah.
You're in the world. You look rotund, even though you're not.
Size of the country.
Mm-hmm. How's the chat looking? Nice. Okay.
Shows guest.
We still got another 9 minutes, so.
Oh, there's 4 online, 2 viewers.
Got about 9 more minutes as I'm talking here, so I'm just going to kind of hang out, make yourself comfortable. I don't want to start early, but I also want to make sure things are working okay. So you're just talking, you're just typing to yourself.
Yep. Also these 2 viewers.
Oh, 2 guys, okay.
And Noel.
And Noel. Oh yeah, it's Noel. He does the Highland Games stuff. The guy's a beast. What's up, Noel? Is it Noel or Noel? Oh, Noel. Yeah, Noel. That's right. What's up, fella?
Give him about 15 seconds and he might respond.
Yeah.
He said hey.
All right. This is a bit awkward. Kind of wish I hadn't started early now.
Oh.
Yeah, exactly.
What kind of tea is it?
This is honeybush tea. It is caffeine free. And this cup is from Fido in Nashville. If you guys haven't been there, it's awesome. It's a like a little breakfast joint. Well, actually, they do everything, but it's good. I go there every time I pass through Nashville. I go there. So good place.
He said perfect.
All right, still got a bit of time here, guys. I know everybody's probably going to jump on around 7 o'clock, so I don't want to start too early. You guys can just get a gander of Old Glory behind me, and then TR over here too, just making sure I stay on point with everything.
Any story on that flag?
The flag is a 48-star flag from about 1940s, no later than 1950. But yeah, just an old flag. So it's got a legit patina to it, and kind of cool. You guys can actually see we did this kind of cool American Eagle thing up at the top there. And so that's actually the wood there is actually an old piece of chestnut, right? So the chestnut trees don't really exist anymore except for a few up north in some choice parts. And so we decided to put that board up there as just sort of a reminder of, the original kind of Americana state of things, the grand forests that were once here before a blight from literally a Chinese chestnut tree wiped them all out. So could be, an omen of some kind, maybe. A few more minutes, guys. We're going to get started here. if you guys have questions about finding your purpose before we get going, feel free to throw those in the chat. Ethan's going to grab those questions and just kind of catalog all that stuff for the end of this, so that he will, so that I'll be able to have a Q&A session with you guys afterwards. So that's how that works, because I can't do two things at once. Sometimes I can't do one thing at once. So while we're waiting here, I'll show you guys my shirt. This is not a Wolf and Iron shirt, but it's cool. I don't know you nothing.
No, we got his shirts yesterday.
Nice.
They're fantastic.
He's been a big supporter. This shirt's from In God We Must, and it's really cool. So I like those guys. But thanks, Noel, man. I appreciate the support. All you guys, actually, everybody that's bought a shirt recently. Very cool to see the launch take off. We sold quite a number of shirts, actually, and then we listed them on Rustic in Maine and sold a number of shirts that way as well. It's kind of just as an add-on, I guess, to ring orders and stuff, just to kind of see how that would work. So it's been cool to see that happen. So good stuff. We got some new designs coming out.
Yeah, Travis Newton.
What's up, Travis? How's it going, man? Glad to have you on. Ethan, you want to be on the lookout for a guy who might pop up there as either Eric Zufall or Man Down.
Okay.
And he's going to be, he's supposed to be heckling me. So he's a good guy, but, he's a troublemaker. Talking about you, Zufall. So feel free to heckle him back. Oh, I'll show you guys something. Hang on. This is what you get for showing up early. You get to see stuff. So working on some new stuff, and you guys will appreciate this. I know some of you guys saw this, but we got our first new shirts, kind of the prototypes in. So hold fast. It comes from a scripture verse. Hold fast to the hope that you have in Christ. And so I think they turned out really nice. I'll show you guys something else too. 1 second.
Also, can I ask a legit question before we start? I said, shoot. Noel loves the phrase.
What's the phrase? What's that?
Hold fast.
Hold fast? Yeah. Good.
Jason Lyle.
What's up, Jason? So I showed you guys a little bit of the beard oils we're kind of working on. This is just some behind the scenes stuff here. Killing time. Can you guys see that? The labels finally came in. They're not going to look as good for you guys as they do for me in person, but just kind of get a gander there. And these things are going to rock. I'm just telling you, these things are awesome. I'm excited about these. Frederick Douglass finally got his stuff in. The John Muir labels came in a little pink, so not a big fan of those, but I got them reprinted. We'll see how those turn out, but excited about cool stuff. And a lot of these things I'm showing you guys really relates to what we're going to be talking about, finding your purpose and that kind of thing, and just using your talents and your passions in a way that you find significant. So that's what we're going to be all about. Actually, I got one more story before we get started here. So speaking of gear and stuff like that, I reached out to a cap manufacturer because we don't have a good USA made cap in the Wolf and Iron store. So I reached out to this manufacturer and I said, hey guys, I'm looking for a USA made cap. Here's kind of the style, the design that I want to do. I got this manly site called Wolf and Iron. It's all about dudes and men being men. And, but I'm all about, American made products and that kind of stuff. And I sent them some examples. I said, I want it to be maybe like an olive green or a black, but with like a Velcro patch on the front. And I said, do you guys have anything for me? Can you send me like some samples? And we went back and forth on email. The lady's like, look, I got you. Don't worry about it. I'm going to send a sample out to you. This is what she sends me. I mean, really. It fits great. It feels awesome, but not my color. And she really didn't get the gist of what I was going for at all. So anyhow, we got some work to do, America.
So Noel's got a question. You want to
Okay.
answer it now or later?
What is it?
That if I I have a good paying job with security, but I feel like I want to move on and do something else that isn't working for everyone else. Is there a way to know if I'm just bored with what I'm actually doing or if I'm called to move on to my own?
That's a good question. Okay. We're gonna hold that one to the end, I think.
Okay.
That's a good question. I think a lot of guys are going to benefit from that. So, all right, guys, it is officially 7 o'clock. And so we're going to kick this sucker off. I know there's a bit of delay anyhow, so some of the guys will be catching up in the next couple of seconds, and that's fine. So in case you haven't noticed, this is a bit informal. Basically, it's just me sharing with you guys some things that have been helpful for me. I want to do these kind of training events about once a month. And really, this is me gearing up for the Foundry, which is going to be our membership site starting in January of next year. And so a lot of this is me basically being able to provide value to you guys, kind of beyond some of the stuff that I've been doing with the podcast and whatnot. And today we're going to be talking about finding your purpose. I mean, that's really what this is. This is what this is all about. And you guys have reached out to me, a number of you, and said you're trying to figure out what you're supposed to be doing in life. What's really going to add value to other people? What's going to make you feel fulfilled at the end of the day? Theodore Roosevelt's got a quote. He says, far and away, the best prize life has to offer is the chance to do hard work, to work hard at work worth doing. So the chance to work hard at work worth doing. I'm sorry, Teddy, I almost got it wrong. But I love the way he puts that. He says it's the chance. It doesn't mean it's guaranteed. You don't get guaranteed to do the thing that you really most want to do, but you get a chance. And sometimes, fellas, it's the pursuit. It's just the pursuit of it. And that in itself can be very fulfilling. But there's also the other piece to it there, and that's work worth doing. And that's going to be very subjective. That's going to be up to you guys. And you're going to have to determine for yourself what that worth doing is. And you're going to have to say, is what you're doing now the most worth doing thing that you can do? Or is there something else out there that you can be doing that's even better? And so I'm going to provide a framework here. This is really simple. It's pretty straightforward, easy to remember. And you guys are going to be able to apply this in your career. You're going to be able to apply this in your family life. I think that it's unique. I'm not really trying to research and see if anybody else has come up with this, but you guys are well read and well versed. So if you know of anybody who's kind of doing some of the same stuff, let me know. This might go into a book down the road. Just one of those ideas I have, so I don't know. But let me know either way what you think about the training. I do want to say before we get started anymore, there's a chat box for you guys, and log into that thing. Ethan's going to be kind of he's going to be my man in the chair, and he's going to be responding to you guys and capturing your questions. So if you have questions, Noel's already put one out there. If you have questions about what your purpose is, what that looks like, should you leave your job, any of that kind of stuff, the more specific type of things, definitely put those in there, and we want to answer those the best we can at the end of the session. So I think that's it. Let's get rolling. Also, if you have any kind of issues with the audio or video, suck it up. Rub some dirt on it. No. Yeah, let Ethan know in the chat, and we'll try to address it if we can. We'll see what we can do. All right. So we're getting all fancy here. Move things around a bit. So I'm going to start with this. This is Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and a lot of you guys have seen this. This is probably not new for many of you. This pyramid kind of defines some of the basic needs that a person has, that people have, and as we kind of climb up that pyramid, up the hierarchy, we kind of get into some, more, self-actualization, self-esteem issues and things like that, right? So you guys are probably familiar with this. The reason that I'm showing you this, the reason that I'm starting out with this is because I think it's really key for you guys to understand something. My story is that I grew up poor to kind of lower middle class, didn't have a lot of stuff growing up, had hand-me-downs, had all that kind of stuff. I'm very thankful actually for how I grew up, and that it was different than a lot of people that I knew. But eventually got a job in the IT field, worked my way up to as a software developer, began leading teams, began more architecture type of stuff and more design and standards and things of that nature. And but when I was in my 20s, that was cool. I really enjoyed it. By the time I got to my 30s, I realized that it wasn't for me. And that was like it's a good career, right? It's a good safety thing. And it was so much better than pretty much anybody that I knew growing up had. And kind of one of the things that came with this desire to do more or to be more was this kind of guilt that maybe I'm being greedy, maybe I'm being selfish, maybe I've got it good enough, and to ask for more is something that I shouldn't be, pursuing. And I think some of you guys struggle with this. I'd be surprised if a few of you at least don't. And so I want to kind of touch on a couple of things, because I think getting some clarity around where we are, you and I are today in this day and age, is very important. And so let me explain this to you guys, rather, not understand. I understand it. So our ancestors kind of, focused around this area, right? Just basic needs. They were the people that just basically needed to survive, right? Their whole goal was basically not to end up like this guy, dead. And so that was really the goal, right? I mean, that's when you get to safety, physical security, those kinds of things. I think most of you guys, if you're able to watch this online, you've kind of gotten past that stage, and thank goodness, right? But that's been built on the backs of so many generations of people that had to do ungodly things just to make it, just to have bread on the table, if they were lucky enough to have bread on the table, unless you're a paleo person and you just wanted meat on the table, whatever the case is. Anyhow, our grandparents are probably, in this kind of stage here. Maybe some of them even got to be kind of in the esteem kind of area. Very few people actually exist. The kings and maybe the few people we remember through history got to do this part, the self-actualization. And what I'm trying to tell you guys here is that you and I are very fortunate, because we have come at a time when so many of the of this stuff has become just part of life. That's just, we live in a world where these things exist for the most part, that we actually get a chance to focus on this self-actualization. And what this means is, and I apologize for my terrible doodling, self-actualization, like it says, is achieving one's full potential, and including the creative activities. So you and I actually get a chance to do this. And if you think about it, maybe it's helpful if you think about it from a parent's perspective. You don't want your kids to always just be stuck, here or in this area, right? You want your kids to climb the hierarchy and be up in this area. That's what you want for them. That's the same thing that your ancestors wanted for you. Most people could only dream about, putting food on the table. Most people in the world can only dream about putting food on the table today. But you and I get a chance to kind of exist in this area right here, where we get to think about what is our real true potential. What are the things that we're really called to do? What's the thing that we ought to be doing, not just that we have to do. And it's a tremendous blessing. It's an honor. It's a responsibility. And it's something that we didn't born ourselves into this century and into this place in time. It's come at a pretty significant cost. And I think not to take advantage of this, guys, it's doing a disservice to all the people who came before us. So hopefully that's helpful. All right. Let's get into the meat here. So what are we talking about? We're talking about finding our purpose. And really there are 4 key pieces to this that I don't think any of them are negotiable. I think some might be more important than others. And we're going to start with this. We've got a worldview. Okay. You got your passions. You got talents. And you got needs. Okay. That's your needs and the needs of others as well. These things are kind of connected. They kind of feed each other, right? Think about this as being a circle of sorts. And, one speaks to the other. They all kind of influence the other. And there is a reason I haven't filled this in. If you guys are OCD, this is going to drive you crazy the whole time because I haven't filled this little space in. But each of these is important. And you got to have these all, you got to pass through these stages to really get to your purpose. And it's going to make more sense as I get to the end why I didn't fill this last piece in. So let's start with worldview. This is key, guys. This is absolutely key, your worldview. Now, you guys know I'm a Christian. Hopefully, most of you know that. So my worldview tells me that there is a God, and God created me for a purpose. And this has been so important, guys. You've got to get to a place where this becomes, so rock solid for you. The reason is, actually, a number of reasons, but one of the main reasons is that as you begin to kind of venture out from the norm that everybody else is doing, you're going to be challenged, both from the outside, both internally as well. And that challenge is going to look sometimes like this. It's going to be an inner voice that says, do I really have a purpose? Or am I just kind of playing it, right? Is there really a thing that I'm supposed to be doing? Or is that just what I tell myself because it sounds good? Or maybe I'm just here by accident. Maybe we're all just here by accident. And, right, you're gonna sell yourself short if you don't have this, rock solid, guys. The other thing that can happen is that you begin to trade in your values because they're not solid for, rather materialistic things, right? We've all heard the stories about the guy who went out, got rich, had everything he wanted, but nothing that he really, satisfied him, right? And then he lost everything because he was stupid and got a divorce or did drugs or went to jail or something like that. It was always a good story out there. And, but then he comes back and he makes his millions back again or whatever the case is, right? But this time, he knows what he wants, right? He knows what's really important in his family. So this is that's like every movie. But anyway, it's still true, guys. You've got to get your worldview solid. Now, like I said, I'm a Christian. I don't know if there's a way to do this without being a Christian. Honestly, if I did, I wouldn't be a Christian. But you've got to get your worldview right. This is your center for your why. This is what makes everything else make sense. I can't remember if it was C.S. Lewis or G.K. Chesterton. One of these guys said, Christianity is like the missing page, or it's like the key that fits the lock, right? Everything else makes sense when you have that component. And of any of these areas where I would say you need to be spending the most time is here. Understanding why you have a purpose and really getting clear on that and letting that drive you. I can't emphasize that enough. All right. Your passions and your talents, these things are tied together pretty strongly. So the reason I put passions before talents is because I believe that passions ultimately influence your talents. There are things that you're gifted with, your talents that you have. Some of you guys might be good at teaching, for example, but the idea of being a teacher, you hate that idea. You may have gifts at, well, kind of like I did, right? I was good at writing software. I was good at that sort of logical thinking and putting things together. But I didn't want to write software. It's not what I wanted to do. I still do that actually as part of my job, and it's tremendously helpful. But that's a talent that I have, but it's not necessarily, it doesn't align up with my passions. Now, the talents that I didn't have when I was in my 20s was leading and, putting things like this together, or, any number of things, being a good dad, a good husband, those kinds of things. But I had a passion to do that. And because I had a passion, that drove my talents to be able to accomplish that. So, your passions, really do influence your talents ultimately, I believe. Now, there's always going to be something that you're passionate about, and you may not have a specific talent in that area. So let's say music, for example. So let's say you got a real passion about music, but maybe you're not the best guitarist or pianist or composer, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean you don't get to work with music, right? You can still work as a producer, or maybe you can work in the music industry in some kind of way. So your passions can still kind of exist in a space, and your talents can come along and kind of help you utilize your passions to be, because you may be the best producer you can possibly be because you have a passion about the music, not just somebody who has an understanding of marketing or whatever the case is. So hopefully that makes sense there. Your talents are pretty easy to understand, right? I mean, passions, you have passions that are fleeting, but you have talents that are pretty easy to identify. They usually look like this. You do something for somebody, or you put something together at work, and somebody goes, wow, like that's really good. Like you did this, right? And you're thinking, yeah, like that wasn't a big deal at all. Like this took me, 15 minutes or whatever the case is. Usually that's a pretty good clue as to what your talents are. So if you're wondering, what are my talents? What are the things that I'm supposed to be doing? That's usually how they show up. People in your life will tell you, if you're actually doing anything, that you're good at stuff. And you need to kind of recognize that you're good at certain things, but not pigeonhole yourself. You know, if you're good at, like, for example, I was good at writing software, but there's something that's kind of a broader talent than that. It's not just software that I was good at. It was efficiency, and it was kind of logical processing of problems and finding solutions, and kind of tying those things together. Right. So there's elements to your talent that may not necessarily be the thing itself. And that's really where you're going to have to kind of unpack some stuff. But that's what talents kind of look like. It's how they kind of appear. All right. Now let's cross over here to needs. Okay. So like I said, this includes your needs. This also includes the needs of others. Your needs are going to be things like, well, anything that's on that hierarchy. You know, you need shelter, you need safety, you need food, you need some kind of emotional engagement with people. You need a tribe of some kind. You need to feel like you're a part of something, those kind of things, right? You need money, right? So your talent, this is probably going to be a question some of you guys have. What do I do when my passions and my talents and my worldview point me to a need that doesn't pay, right? Well, we'll talk about that in the Q&A section. So if that's a question you guys have, make sure you post that. But what happens if the needs don't pay? Or what happens if the job that I'm seeking, right? I want to be I don't know, like a wilderness guide or something like that. And, you know, it's just not a thing that people want to pay for. Actually, that may be a very lucrative job. I have no idea. But the point is, you have needs, and you have to recognize those needs. And so your purpose is going to be aligned where your needs and the needs of others manifest themselves. So the needs of others looks like this. I need somebody to do a thing, and you're good at it. So I'm going to hire you, or I'm going to ask for your help. So this could be your wife and kids, right? Asking for your help to do something. It could be your employer, could be a business opportunity. So maybe the market has a need. So the market has a need for wedding rings, apparently. So I'm in business, and Ethan is in business, you know, so we get a chance to do that. There's a need for men to be built up as men, right? And so these things, you know, you see those needs, and I say, well, my passions and my talents align with these things. I'm going to go that route. But you have to be, you need to be constantly identifying needs, and the needs are very much going to come back from your worldview here. I don't know if you guys can see my cursor or not, but you know, your needs are going to kind of come from your worldview. Those are how you're going to recognize the most important needs. You know, my worldview as a Christian tells me that people need love and respect. They need fathers and mothers in their lives. They need the examples of godly men and good people who are good stewards of their finances and of their gifts, their talents, their passions. All right. So that informs me of what the needs are out there. And then I begin to see those in practical ways. You know, how do I apply that in maybe an online podcast or blog? How do I create meaning? Because people need meaning in their lives. And how do I do that with rings or whatever the case is? The t-shirts I sell, the beard oils I do, right? You know, the reason that we have beard oils that have guys on them is because it has a meaning there. It's not just put it on your face, let it, you know, make you smell good so that your wife's all turned on and stuff. I mean, that's obviously one of the benefits, but there's a meaning there. And so my worldview first informs me of this broader thing that we're all a part of. And then you just begin to say, where are those needs at, right? Now, the reason that I didn't fill this in is because it's not a circle. And this is important. This is a spiral, guys. Your ultimate purpose lies somewhere in here. And what happens is, as you go through life and you age and you experience things, as you make passes at these different points through podcasts that kind of make you aware of things, maybe a church sermon makes you aware of things, right? And you're always kind of working and understanding more and more about your worldview. You're getting clarity on your passions. You're getting understanding about your talents and how these things work together, right? So you kind of come back and forth a little bit. You understand more about what people need, and you begin to see and test the waters on things, right? I mean, I had a small business before I started Rustic and Main, or Wolf and Iron. It was just an online software company. That kind of gave me some understanding about how I actually interact with customers and you know, how to sell stuff online, those kinds of things. And so, you know, I'm kind of learning as I go. Now, I don't know if we ever get here. I don't know if we ever get, you know, to our ultimate purpose. I'm not sure if that ever happens in a lifetime. I think as you go through seasons of life, your passions can change a little bit and shift. Maybe they become more mature. Your talents can shift as well. You become older maybe, and physical stuff may be harder to do. I don't know. Here's one thing I do know. When you're a kid, you're out here. Okay. When you're a kid, you're on the outside. At some point, you kind of touch down a little bit and you get a little bit of this, right? Eventually, you kind of break inside here and you kind of begin that process of adulting. To kind of give you an example, when you're a kid, it's like Jean-Claude Van Damme is cool, right? So that's my worldview. And so I have passions about kicking people in the face just like he does. So I need to learn how to kick people in the face. And somehow the needs and everything will just get met, my talents and everything. It'll just all work out because that's what it means. To be cool is the best thing. That's my worldview. When you're really young, like when you're a baby, right, or a toddler, your worldview is basically, I want things. If people give me what I want, that's your passions, then I like them. That's, if they don't, then I don't like them, right? I mean, that's how you kind of start out as a kid. As you grow to be an adult, you begin to understand a little bit more about, okay, no, I have to exist in a world of needs with other people. And then, that influences my worldview. Why are people the way they are? Okay. There's actually some, philosophical reasons for that. There's some theological reasons for that. How do I evaluate my passions? I'm just looking at this thing. This is an absolute wreck, but you guys know where I'm going from this, right? Sorry for my scribble. But that's how this thing works. And I'm just going to take some of this off here to kind of clean it up so we get to the question and the Q&A part. But this is a spiral, guys, and you're always working and assessing these things. And so as you're listening to the Wolf and Iron podcast or the EntreLeadership podcast or the Art of Manliness or Order of Man or whatever, Jocko's podcast, Jocko Willink, whatever you're listening to these podcasts or you're reading books and you're studying things and you're watching videos and you're building yourself up. What you're doing is you're actually making passes all along the way here, and you're maturing in your understanding of what your worldview is, of what your passions are, becoming more clear. They go from being, I want to kick people in the face to, I like to help people, or I like justice, right? And they go from, your talents being, whatever, I can kick people in the face. I'm just on a Jean-Claude Van Damme kick here, but pun intended. They go from those being your talents to, actually my talents are, ministering to people or whatever the case is, right? And you begin to see needs. And so as you begin to kind of circle in, guys, you begin to get closer and closer to your purpose. Let me make this really clear. You guys don't have just one purpose. Like, your purpose isn't just to go to work and make money or to have a career that's crazy successful. You guys have a purpose wherever you are because your manhood, your manliness is needed in that space. So when you show up with your family, you have a purpose there, and you use the same map to get there. What are my passions? How do I bring those into my family life for my kids? What are my talents, and how do I bring those into to help my wife and help her to be, a wonderful mom and make it easier for her to do her work, the things she's good at? What are the needs of my family, right? What does my worldview say about how to raise children? So you have a purpose there. You have a purpose with the men that you're in, that your comrades, right? Your camaraderie with, your accountability groups, whatever the case is, the men that you hang out with. You have a purpose, obviously, at work, but even in different roles at work. You have a purpose in your leadership. You have a purpose in your following and as a helper, right? So we're not always in this position of, I'm going to be a big, bad boss man, and I'm going to tell everybody what to do, whether I'm at work or I'm at home. A lot of times, and some of the best times, is really just, how do we serve and how do we help out? And so you still evaluate what your purpose is there in that moment, guys. And the thing is, when you get clear on these things, you don't have to kind of think through the process in your head, like, okay, well, what's my worldview? Okay, what's my, passions? Okay, I'm going to trim the bushes, right? That's not, it doesn't work that way. You know where you can fall in. You know what you're good at. And not only that, but you begin to know the things that you're not good at, and you begin to really appreciate that in other people. And so, for my wife, she's been tremendous in helping me with Rustic in Maine and just building this company up, because she has talents that I don't have. She does things that I find just terribly boring, but she's also very good at. And I have talents that she doesn't have. And I appreciate those far more than I did when I was in my 20s. So that's it for the training part, guys. We're going to go into the Q&A session. I know we got a bit of a delay, so I'm going to actually kind of wait for this to finish up as you guys are kind of digesting this stuff. Make sure that you post your questions over there. I can hear Ethan typing away. throw your questions over there for the Q&A part of this, and we'll get back to it.
That's a good question.
I'm sure I do. It's an awesome group of guys. Scroll up if you don't mind, so I can just see the video. I want to see like how far. Oh yeah, Ethan's doing a good job too, because this is the first time in how long that you've used a PC?
Probably a good 3 years.
3 years that he's used a PC. So I gave him my one of my
Mac guy.
He's a Mac guy. Don't hate him. No.
They're just better.
Well, you know, maybe. But the point is, he had to like rearrange my keyboard. It's gonna be all screwed up now. Nobody can use this thing ever again. But he's doing a good job answering your guys' questions and cataloging those things. Okay. Throw some questions at me, E-Man.
Alrighty. There's my little notepad here. Just needs to get their wording. All right. First one. We'll go back to Noel's original question.
Okay. Can you just get over here? Is it? Oh, yeah. Just get over here a little bit so you can get in the mic.
Gotcha.
So I don't have to repeat things. I don't want to.
All right.
Repeating's for suckers.
Laptop, I'll disconnect here.
Okay.
Hey, all. All right, Noel's first question. If I have a good paying job with security, but I feel like I want to move on and do something else that isn't working for someone else, is there a way to know if I'm just bored or if I'm actually called to move out on my own?
Okay. Yeah, that's a good question. So the whole thing about being called, right? What does that sound like? I mean, that's, God's basically coming down and saying, here's the thing for you to do, right? It would be awesome if God gave us like really, really clear things, right? Hey, Mike, I want you to stop writing software and I want you to go to make circles in your garage now. That'd be cool if he had said that, but he didn't. So I do believe there's a calling on our life, but I think the calling is a bit more vague a lot of times. The high call is basically to be the best man that you can be in every situation that you're put in, which is very broad. And as far as your career, here's the thing. You can not like what you're doing and but still like some aspects of it. The question you really need to ask yourself is, are you really reaching your full potential there? Are you becoming the man that you ought to be? And are there opportunities there for you to really utilize all of your strengths and your talents and your passions, that kind of stuff, in the service of other people? Because you're always going to be doing it in the service of somebody. You should be. Hobbies are another thing. I mean, hobbies are fun, right? You may have a passion for hobbies, and that doesn't have to benefit anybody but you. But just about anything else in life, it's going to be, for the most part, you're serving other people. And that's really where your strength comes from. You're building your strength up as a man and becoming a better man so that you can go out and serve other people. So that's the high call, really. And so you got to ask yourself, Noel, are you able to do that where you are? Can you do that better somewhere else? Like, for example, I was a leader at my job when I was a software developer. I did a good job there. But there are a couple of things that affected me to do it the best that I possibly could. One was I had waning passion for that particular job. Two, I didn't have the ability to use all of my creative juices like I like to, like I can here by myself or in my own businesses. So there were things I could point to, and I could say I have passions and talents here, 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 and here. And I'm not able to utilize them, not because the company was bad, just because of the structure of the job. I mean, it is what it is. You get hired to do a thing. And so I think, the other question you got to ask is, what's holding you back? Are you afraid of making the move? Is it something that you can set up and make a sort of an easy transition to? Do you have a good game plan in place for making the jump? Not a perfect one, but a good one. Do you know about 60% at least of what you want to, do to make it successful? Working for yourself is what I'm assuming that you're talking about. And so if you can put those things in place, and then you can begin to kind of see how you would be able to use your talents and your passions in service of the needs of other people even better there. I don't think it's a matter of whether you're supposed to do it. I think you have to do it. I think you absolutely have to. I'm not telling you to quit your job tomorrow, but I'm saying you have to do the thing. I mean, that's what you ought to do. The thing you'll look back on at the end of your life and you'll say, what would have happened if I just made the jump, right? And I think you would have recognized that you would have had a lot more freedom and ability to utilize those passions and talents working for yourself than working for somebody else. And that's probably true 90% of the time, I would say. But not everybody has the talents and abilities to run their own business and stuff. So that's another piece. All right. Hopefully that's helpful, Noel. Appreciate you, man.
All right. One that dovetails nicely into that question question. There was one that Sam Clemens just asked.
All right, Sam.
That is, how do you determine what our passions are? On a surface level, we can quote like doing things,
Yeah.
but still feel empty. Are there any methods to aid in this introspection?
Okay, that's great, great. So how do we know what our passions are? Our real good passions, the ones that are going to last and last and last. It's a bit of a challenge because, as I said in the training, these things change over time, right? Because you become more clear about the things that really, really matter to you. When you have kids, everything changes, right? And as you become, as you get older, your passions change over time. So how do you get really clear on what's really makes you passionate? Well, or what a true passion is, and what's one that's not just a sort of a superficial kind of thing. Like you guys probably all have a passion for ladies. It doesn't mean you should go out and be a supermodel photographer or something like that. So it's got to align with your worldview, right? And so you have to say, okay, this is a passion. I have to identify if that passion is actually good, or is it just like maybe flesh oriented or worldly? Is it something that's fleeting, right? One of the ways you do that is you test it. You test it against your worldview, but you also work in that area. So to give you guys an example, when I started Wolf and Iron, for the first year, I didn't really advertise it at all. I started blogging, and I began to get some feedback. That was positive, and that was really cool and encouraging to me, but I was kind of checking the waters for myself. Was this going to be one of those things that sounded really cool, but then after I wrote like 50 articles, then I didn't want to do it anymore, or something else would take its place, right? Something else more pressing. At the end of the year, though, here's what I found was that I loved it even more than I thought, and I wanted to dig deeper in. And I still feel that way. And we're almost 5 years now down the road, and I feel like I'm just getting started. I feel like every day is day one, honestly, guys. That's what it feels like to me. And so there's a certain kind of fulfillment that comes from thinking about that passion and working in that passion. It doesn't drain me. It gives me energy, right? And so you can have passions about things that you may not be good at, and you'll feel like you're going, 10 miles an hour. But if you're working in a place that's your passions, but it's also your talents, then it feels like you're just cruising at 100 miles an hour and you never skip a beat. And it's awesome. The other thing I want to say is this. Your fulfillment doesn't always happen in the moment. Sometimes it happens a week or at the end of the project. And so what you guys will find is that you may have a passion for something, and while you're doing the thing, you just feel worn out. I mean, you just feel like, oh my gosh, this sucks. This is really hard. I don't know if I can do this anymore. I think about missionaries, for example. But then something happens. Somebody gets saved, or a project ends, or it's the end of the week, and you look back and you see what you did. And maybe it wasn't the work itself that you had a passion about, but it's the effect that you're able to have on other people's lives. And so then you say, okay, that's what I'm excited about. I want to have that effect. And the only way to achieve that is if I do the work, right? I've got to put in the work that's hard and that's grueling, because I'm given the talents to do that, and because my passion is for the result that I see, right? And so you've got to measure your passions up against your worldview first to see if they're just, and then you got to work in them. And then you keep doing that to see if they last, or if they kind of flitter away, like so many just interests that we have. I like kombucha, right? And so I have this idea. You guys may have heard in my last podcast. I'd love to start a kombucha company, but that might be one of those things where I would love to just kind of start it and have somebody else run it. That's not necessarily a strong passion, but there's something there. Don't make fun of me for liking kombucha. All right.
That's good. So this is, I guess, more of an overarching question here from Travis earlier.
All right.
Hey, internet's been less than cooperative. Will this still be on YouTube later so I can pick up anything I missed?
Yeah. So Travis and anybody else that is probably not tuning in now, this will be available later. I'm probably going to make it available just to the guys in our Facebook group, because they're the most loyal fellows out there, and just helps encourage people to get out there. So yes, it will be made available later, probably Monday would be my hope. So yeah, stay tuned. And if you have any questions, throw them over in the Facebook group. Actually, if you're not a member, you can get over there by going to wolfandiron.com/thegroup. That'll sling you over to our Facebook page. And you can throw questions out there, and we'll be glad to answer. And the guys in that group are just freaking sharp. I mean, just such good guys. And so they'll be able to answer this stuff for you as well. If I don't make it to the answer, they'll be able to help out.
All right, next question. We'll go with one from Ben Davies. What are some helpful ways for us to identify our talents?
Okay, helpful ways to identify our talents. Okay, so like I said in the training, one of the things is you do stuff and people compliment you on it. Okay. That means you have to be afraid or not afraid to show the things that you do. So sometimes we do obvious stuff, right? We come over and we, I don't know, split wood for a neighbor, an old lady or something like that, and she appreciates it. Maybe it's stuff that you have to do at work and you have to give a presentation and people go, that's pretty amazing, right? You came up with a good idea there. But sometimes we have talents that are kind of hidden. And they're the things that, you know, you make a ring in your garage and you don't know if it's good. So you wear it out and see what people think. You do a piece of art and you kind of tell, you know, what do people think about that? Your talents in some way doesn't need to be validated by everybody, but it needs to be validated by somebody, because it has to have a certain value to it. You know, if I'm talented at, you know, spinning plates or whatever, I can't come and run Rustic in Maine, right? That's not going to work. I mean, it'd be interesting. I guess you guys would find that entertaining if I could spin plates and juggle and make things disappear. But that's not really an appropriate talent for here. But somebody might find that cool. And so you may have to, you know, try really hard to find somebody out there who's going to give you that kind of like, yes, I get that. I see that. I see the artistic nature in that. Writers deal with this a lot. Musicians deal with this a lot, where they have what they believe is a talent, but they put it out there, and you know, they got friends and family members that kind of give them a, yay, it's okay, or I don't know, or it sounds great, honey, you know, you're doing just fine. And it's really difficult to get solid feedback on it. But the internet has made this so much easier, guys. So get an Instagram page, throw it out on Facebook, whatever it is that you do and you think you do well. You'll probably have an instinct about it if you do something well. And then put it out there and just say, hey guys, what do you think about this? I mean, maybe your talent is impressions, right? Maybe you just do, or voiceovers or something like that. You know, those are easy things to test out, and you guys can certainly just put them out there, but you need to have it validated by somebody. Now, a lot of people are going to say, no, you don't have to have your talents validated. You're just talented. Look, if nobody cares for it, it's not a talent. I'm telling you. It may be 1 in a million people who like it, and that's enough, because there's lots of millions of people in the world that can benefit. So hopefully that's helpful.
One from Travis. He says, how do you get past the feeling like you missed your chance on finding your purpose and are stuck in the grind and trying to survive?
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. So how do you know? I mean, like, how do you get past that? Well, you know, here's the thing, Travis. Let me ask you this. You're on your deathbed. Your day comes up, and a man comes in the door, right? You're laying there. Time's about up. And the guy that comes in is the guy you could have been. You need to ask yourself, what does he look like? What's he like? Is he, you know, what did he say yes to that you didn't say yes to? What did he say no to that you didn't say no to? When did he make that decision? And, you know, the chances, you know, unless you're dead yet, unless that's you on the bed, your chance isn't up. You know, you've still got the opportunity to do that. Now, you may have to have a kind of a scaling down period of your life where you're saying, I'm going to, you know, pay off my debt. I'm going to reduce my house. I'm going to do whatever I can to get myself in kind of a fresh state. Now that I can begin to think about making a career change. You know, for me, I wasn't in the daily grind. I actually had a good job where I had some flexibility to think, you know, use my mind in other spaces. So I'd spend my lunches writing. I'd spend, you know, my mornings, early mornings making rings and stuff like that before I made the career change. But, you know, going from a $100,000+ a year job as a software developer to doing that in my own business, you know, that was a pretty significant jump. And then to do something where I'm employing other people, and then, you know, now we have a building and all that kind of stuff. And the rest of the year has been kind of crazy. Not everybody has the same trajectory. It doesn't always happen like that. And so instead of thinking about I've missed my chance or I'm in the daily grind, actually, you know, our friend DQ, he's 34 years old. He just he joined the Army, what, 2 years ago?
Yeah.
2 years ago. He's in the reserves. He's going to be shipping out sometime next year.
Yep,
next November to Afghanistan. You know, 34 years old. And why did he do that? Well, because he tried when he was 17. I just found this out tonight. This is very apropos. He tried when he was 17. Didn't happen for various reasons. Just kind of bugged him and bugged him and bugged him. He did different careers and stuff like that. And eventually somebody asked him this very question. They said, think about yourself, you know, having, you know, joined or having not joined, you know, 25 years from now. And what do you think? Are you happy with the decision that you made? If you're not happy with the decision that you made, you got to make a different decision. And so I would say, start putting together a game plan, kind of go through that cycle like I talked about. What's your worldview? What's your passions? What's your talents? And what are the needs? And if you know what it is that you're supposed to be about, you need to think about what's holding you back from doing that thing. And I can almost guarantee you, because it's been done so many times, there's so many examples of this, numbers of books of people that have just made a change. 80 years old, they make a change. 60 years old, they make a change, right? And all it is just, you just have to decide to make that change. Stop worrying about the past. I think that's the best advice I can give.
We'll go back to another one from Ben Davies.
All right, Ben, you can't ask 2 questions, Ben.
He says, Mike, as a Christian man, would you agree that the ultimate purpose you talked about is emulating Christ to the world? And how you fulfill that purpose is more a personal choice than an actual calling?
That's good. Calling in some ways has a bit of a fate kind of connotation to it. We're called to do something. We have a purpose. So therefore we must have been kind of preordained to do that thing forever, before the beginning of time by God, by Christ. Whereas kind of taking it up on your own, basically just saying what aligns with my personality and what do I want to do, is more of a destiny approach. Your destiny is the thing you go out there and you take hold of. Fate is the thing that kind of happens to you, like it or not, it's going to happen. I'm definitely more of I'm in the destiny camp of things. And so but I do believe that there's a calling, a specific calling on men, and you nailed it, Ben. It really is to emulate Christ. That's what I believe. So I believe it's to emulate Christ to the world. And but I do believe that we have the freedom to make these choices. And I talk about free will sometimes to people. They kind of want to know, like, well, how does free will work and all that stuff? We obviously don't have time to get into it now, but I think it works a little bit like this. I give you an awesome piano. It's tuned up, it's perfect, it's exactly what you need to play the piano. And in fact, you could live 3 lifetimes and never fully exhaust all the melodies and the potential that's built up in this piano. And in fact, you would be the limiting factor, if anything, not the piano, right? So you got all these choices. You got all these things. You get to just kind of play whatever melody you want to play. And as we said, those passions and those melodies may shift over the years, and that's fine. It's your piano. But here's the thing. You're never going to play a tune that that piano can't play, right? That piano is pre-designed to always play only the notes and only the songs that it's made to do, right? So if we think about that like us, God gives us this world and it has its limitations. Our life has limitations. We have certain ingrained passions and talents and things and gifts from God because there's a certain song that he ultimately wants us to play. But at the same time, we get to make some awesome music, guys, along the way. We get to make some awesome music. And, like I said, you may find a season of your life where your passion and your purpose is all about your family, and that's fine. And you may have a season of life where it's really more about serving other people or maybe in a career, and that's awesome too. And so I think you got to, absolutely, you have a choice there to make. And that choice is, how do I want to use these passions and talents? That's the fun part of it, right? That's a really cool thing about this. You get to look at the world of all these different needs and possibilities and say, I think I'm going to try that route. And then at the same time, I'm going to emulate Christ while I'm there. I try to emulate Jesus while I'm here. I'm growing the beard out, so that's part of it. But even to you guys and to our customers, even, I try to think about, how would Christ respond to a bridezilla or whatever the case is. And that sounds silly, but that's how we process things around here. And it's made for a tremendously good work environment. And it gives me a lot of fulfillment at the end of the day.
Travis just joined the group.
Hey, Travis.
He
a little late there.
Facebook group.
Oh, he joined the Facebook group. Okay, it's good. Yeah, I thought you meant the chat group.
Noel just got called out on
all right. See you, Noel. Thanks for serving, man.
All right. Another question. Well, Noel catching on the deal there, but he said, "Will you make a shaving oil for those of us that can't grow a beard in our line of work?"
Well, I'm
firefighting.
Oh well, yeah. Well, I make a shaving oil for firefighters. I never thought about there being a noble reason not to grow facial hair. That's actually, gas mask. Kind of reminds me of Hitler, but Yeah, maybe so. I mean, a good shaving lotion, I could see that. I mean, to be honest, guys, I don't always keep this thing, and I'm trying to grow it out a little bit for the promotion of the beard oils. But yeah, that'd be, I'm open to any ideas that you guys have. And for me, the way I kind of process products is like this. I think, here's a neat idea. Maybe somebody else is doing something like that. How do I put a spin on it that I think just makes it awesome, right? How can I do it so much better than anybody else is doing? And that's how I always kind of see competition in that kind of respect. Some people think about it more in terms of, can I slap my name on it and then sell it? I can't slap Mike Yarborough on much anything and sell it, but I can make stuff awesome and make you guys rave about it when you get it and you go, those t-shirts feel great, or this beard oil is awesome. So yeah, shaving lotions and or shaving creams and stuff like that. Yeah, sure, why not?
So, Michael Brammer just asks, what are some things that single men can do to prepare for future purposes in lives, such as marriage and kids? Obviously, creating and maintaining a relationship with Christ is important, but what are ways to sculpt and mold my talents in preparation for those purposes?
Yeah, that is such a key question. I'll tell you what, you are ahead of the game, my friend. You are way ahead of the game, because you're asking, right? What can a single guy do to better himself and prepare himself for marriage in 2018? Oh my gosh, you just made my day. That's awesome. Well, attending things like this is really important. Listening to podcasts, videos, and that sort of thing. I would say, do all kinds of work. Everything that you do that you get your hands on, it teaches you something, right? Whether it's learning to play guitar or learning to play a sport or, leading in various ways. I think leadership is so key, especially as a father and as a husband. I think a lot of single guys are not, they don't get, who raises anything anymore, right? Nobody raises chickens or rabbits. That's obviously not true. Some people do. But for the most part, right? In today's society, most of us grow up not having raised things. And so we talk about, I'm going to raise a family. That's going to be my first try at it. That kind of sucks. Like, that's not very fair to my family. And maybe by the time I get to be a granddad, I'll have this thing figured out. So get your hands on stuff and get around married couples. And that sounds kind of strange, but befriend them and kind of see how they interact and ask questions. How do you overcome difficulties, when you and your wife disagree, any of those things. And then when it comes to finding your purpose, I don't know how old you are, but just be aware of this. It will probably change. It'll probably change for you, probably change for your wife over the years. And so my wife was homeschooling for a number of years. So we homeschooled our kids, or rather she homeschooled our kids. Sorry. And I don't have to apologize. Actually, this is a man video. But when our kids got older, right. And so we've got an almost 16 and an almost 19-year-old at home. One's off to college. She's kind of thinking, like, what do I do now? And there's so many things that she has actually really good skills in doing, because she's all those years of homeschooling, and she was planning events, and she was doing so many different things, working with me in the budget just for the house stuff. Right. And so over the years, she's just gained a tremendous amount of skills. And so it gives her a lot of opportunity to think, what is it that she wants to do? And I think you want to be in that position. I would say, number one, find good leaders, find good men to emulate, and start just kind of putting on their character as much as possible. And then when you find that lady, she's going to be lucky. She's going to be very lucky.
Pretty well addresses everything. Lewis made a good point earlier on in your talk there. Unfortunately, schools these days don't address why we're here. Ben followed that up with, that's why it's important that we teach that in the house.
Yeah. Yeah, it's absolutely key. And you're right, guys. The kids aren't going to go to school and see anything like this. Your kids aren't going to go to school, most likely, and hear about the difference between being a man and being a woman, what that looks like, and how to practically live that out. Even about basic biology, like, what's the hormonal differences between men and women, and what helps a man be a man or a woman be a woman. They're not going to find out that kind of stuff. So that's why Wolf and Iron exist. That's why these, so many guys are taken to the airwaves or the, stream waves. I don't know, what do we have now? The cloud. Yeah, we're all going to the cloud, whatever it is, to kind of preach these things, because it's not being talked about. In fact, it's being the opposite's happening. And so I appreciate you guys. I really do. I appreciate you guys being here on the training, being part of the group, and just joining me for this. And I hope that you guys find this helpful. Give me feedback galore, good feedback, bad feedback. I don't care. Anything you guys got. Let me know what would have made this better. Let me know what I can do to improve, all that kind of stuff. So that's all I got. Ethan, thank you, man, for being here and kind of being my man in the chair. That's it, guys. I'm going to head over to the Wolf and Iron community. That's our Facebook group. If you're not over there, I'll see you over there. I'll post a few questions and see if we can get some chats going. But that's it. Talk to you guys later on. How do I hang this thing up? Stop. That's it.